So let's get started. So hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Candice Reeves. I'm a program manager for the NSF Energy Storage Engine in Upstate New York. I'm joined here by my colleague, Maya Minter, who runs program operations for us. And thanks for joining us today. And we hope that you learned something about the engine and figure out at the very least how to contact us and how to be in touch. So I'll start by talking a little bit more about the engines program specifically for those of you who may not be familiar. So the energy storage engine is part of a project that started 2.5 years ago um, as part of the National Science Foundation larger effort of having these regional innovation engines. Our engine was launched in February of 2024, and the idea of each of these engines, originally there were 10 and now there are 9 that remain, was to bring economic development to certain areas of the US where economic development may be lacking, but at the same time had very promising clustering of industries and innovation in these areas. So, as you know, in this region in upstate New York with this green star, is our energy storage engine, but we have other great engines across the country. For example, the Great Lakes Renew engine that focuses on water, semiconductor in Florida, the regenerative medicine engine out of the Triangle, or I think at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. So we have all these engines across the US that are doing incredible things in these hubs of innovation across the US. As for our engine, energy storage, like I said, launched in February of 24. And the reason why we were selected is that we already have many of the qualities in this region that were needed to run a regional innovation engine, which again, many of you may be familiar with the robust set of resources that exist in upstate New York for energy storage. But for example, we have incredible regional institutions and universities. The engine specifically is a partnership between Binghamton University, who's our lead, that all of the logos across the bottom are our core partners of the engine. So Binghamton University is the lead. Cornell University, where Maya and I sit and operate out of, Syracuse University, Rochester Institute of Technology, or RIT. Those are the core academic institutions on our engine. And then other important partners are core partners. So Launch New York, that helps with capital investment, and of course, New York BESS, which is the New York Battery and Energy Storage Tech Consortium, and Griffith Institute, who leads workforce development for us. But beyond that, we have 60 additional partners that we've engaged with over the past couple of years that have helped us develop and build this engine. The funding from the NSF, it's a 10-year project with a promise of up to $160 million over that 10-year project. And this is important because we do not build an ecosystem or industry in a year, of course. Like, it takes a very long time to develop the core and essential needs programs that we need in order to develop this industry. And so we started our 3rd year in February of this year, February 2026. And we were just awarded an additional $45 million for the next 3 years of this engine, which will take us up to year 5 of the engine. So this is a 10-year project with this $160 million from the NSF, but also matching funds from Empire State Development of up to 10%, so of up to an additional $16 million over those 10 years. In addition to that, and to what we're doing, there's more. We have these other complementary investments in this region that are working toward the same purpose, that have, in some cases, preceded us. So there's a communing of these investments with New Energy New York, or NENI, as some of you may be familiar, with the tech hubs by the Department of Commerce, and other investments from Build Back Better, and also other important things such as Battery New York, which we're building in Johnson City. So there's potential investment of over, I think, a little over a quarter of a billion dollars in this region. And this is why upstate New York is becoming the hub for energy storage innovation. Already has been, but what we're working to develop in the next several years. So our engine's mission is quite simple. Batteries for America by America. We know that we lost this industry to China many decades ago. And what we do have, and we know we have in the US, is we're really good at technology, but we have lost a lot of this industry, including manufacturing, packaging that's happening in China and other parts of Asia and in Japan and Korea. And so we want to compete. We need to compete. At the same time, this is also a national security priority because of how important it is to get access to critical materials for this type of development, energy independence. We want to transform upstate New York into the battery tech capital of the US. And we'll talk about what that means because it's not that we want upstate New York to be where all the gigafactories are in the US. But what we're advocating for is the innovation, the connectivity of the ecosystem, the technology development. This is what we're already doing in upstate New York. Obviously, we have competition all over the world, but also in the United States. We're, but we're still well positioned to lead this. Why? Because we have, like I keep saying, these incredible universities, incredible people who are doing fantastic research and innovation. But we mentioned these four core universities, but there's many, many others, of course, in the upstate New York region and our ecosystem that are associated with our engine. We have great startups. We have great test beds and facilities at RIT, at Binghamton with Nexus, with building Battery New York, at Cornell. And we have many other parts that are necessary for this industry, component assemblers, people who are doing cell and electrode manufacturing. So there are other actors in our ecosystem, and all of those are helping us to succeed, to bring together all of these players that are necessary to develop this industry in upstate New York. And of course, as this graph shows, we know there's a ton of this development in California, of course, with Tesla, with many others, gigafactories in the Carolinas and Nevada. But what we're trying to do is do what we already do very well in upstate New York, which is tech innovation. And so, how do we do that? We have fantastic R&D institutions. We have dynamic startups. In upstate New York, we have top-tier infrastructure. We have basic research characterization that you could do, manufacturing, testing, certification, and cell making. We have been building this testing infrastructure over decades, and we're really building on that now. We also have great educational partners, such as community colleges, BOCES programs, and many others that work on workforce development. And all of this is powered by the state and federal programs that are working to power the development of this industry. The other thing that we have that's important here on the right are downstream industries that have requirements for batteries, right? So we have at the engine, we do a lot of work with a push within industry from Department of Defense, Army, Navy, understanding what the requirements are from folks such as the military, that make it such that the development of this industry here in the US is critical. It's important for the military, for example, to be moving toward buying batteries made in America instead of China. But we also have industries working on electric transportation, such as commercial forklifts, or maritime electrification, where products and retail is moving, and all of that should be electrified, we believe. So we also have a very interesting opportunities that we're working with partners who work on the grid, optimization and modernization to make it resilient. And we also talk a lot about data centers. So as we know data centers are here, they're growing. Is the grid going to be able to handle it? Should we modernize? So we think the answer to this has to be yes. And what we spend a great deal of our time doing is understanding how energy storage is an essential component to all of this and how we as an engine can help develop this right here in upstate New York. We have a fantastic leadership team. So Dr. Mir Sampath is our Chief Executive Officer. She has tremendous experience at Xerox and was also a VP at Binghamton University. Heidi Grenick is our COO, who had a long career at Corning and also worked in battery startup. There are many other individuals that not only bring the R&D experience, but also that rich industry experience as well. We're very fortunate to have our Chief Innovation Officer, Stan Whittingham, who is also a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry for the lithium-ion battery in 2019. But he also brings a mindset of knowing how to transfer this knowledge into industry, which you'll continue to hear me say, but is a really critical component of the engine. Fernando Gomez Baquero is our Director of Translation. He has a lot of experience in running startups in the industry, but is also the director of runway and spinouts at Cornell University. So works on commercialization and understands how to help our energy storage startups in our ecosystem with the engine really bring their knowledge and their expertise to a customer and to commercialization and beyond. And we have many, many other folks here who are really stellar and have a wealth of diverse and complementary backgrounds that are helping to bring this engine to life and fulfill our mission. Here's a snapshot of how we think about the organization of the engine. So think about it, you can think about it as these three core components. So first we have this core function that Maya and I work on specifically, which is research and development and translation and in entrepreneurship. And all of the work we do here is with industry as well as how to develop these technologies and help move startups from that TRL 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 and beyond, how to get them to commercialization, how to actually work with a customer, understand what are the pull and needs of the customer in the industry, and so that the technologies that are being developed in our startups are actually things that the industry needs, so they will be successful. Then we also have workforce development. So how are we going to train the next generation of battery manufacturers, technicians, and beyond? And as I mentioned, this is led by our colleague Tim Thomas at the Griffiths Institute, who do fantastic work in running programs to help develop our workforce development in the industry. And then we have a third function, test beds and infrastructure. What we all know is that it's very expensive for any company, but especially a startup, to have to build a plant or pilot scale facility, build a reactor, then go to Asia, then come back, get certification. What we've been able to build here is a series of connective tissue, and what we're hoping to do even more of is build this connective tissue within the engine that can help serve these purposes, so that we don't need to have a startup invest tens of millions of dollars in these facilities, but we can help service these facilities with what already services with what already exists here to help a company get to commercialization faster and more efficiently. We have these great institutions, Cornell University, RIT, Binghamton, that have the best analytical tools. So if you want to do some cell making, you can go to Battery New York. If you want to do a certification in the region, that can happen at Intertech. You can build your technology with the infrastructure that exists here, and you can accelerate your path to the market. Of course, as a startup, you'll also need to raise money. And that's another function of what we do with Launch New York, helping to build this infrastructure, bringing investment and capital to the region. Because we know that this is an absolutely essential component for scaling this industry. And, we're working on bringing all of these components to the region to help scale the industry. So mention the test beds and infrastructure. I know throughout this info session, Maya will drop a set of resources into the chat, but you can go to our website, and I believe it's under our test beds tab. You can see an interactive map of all of the infrastructure in the Southern Tier in the Western New York region that exists already here, and what the contact information is specifically at those institutions. So if you want to take a look to see what we can do, it's all there for you. We also work with outfits in other regions in the state. So, for example, in Albany, where there's great nanofabrication centers, or Brookhaven. If it's in New York and can create economic growth, that's fantastic, and we want to work with them, and we want to help bring your problems into the ecosystem and help find you solutions for them. We also have this available on our website. So, like I said, interactive map or this PDF, I think, in our resources, but which we can send after this info session as well. But take a look at all the facilities that we have, especially if you're a startup or working in R&D. But what we really want to do is allow you to do cell making without a huge investment, metrology, analytical work that you need to do without a huge investment. The idea is that you can do it here, and we can help you with battery, with safety testing, with scaling up and certification. So take a look, and we'll also share our contact information, and you can always reach out to us. That's a lot of what we do is have just conversations with folks about how we can help. So what do the past two and a half years look like? Over the past couple of years, we've done a ton of work, starting the whole process of building the ecosystem in energy storage. So we've brought in larger players such as Raymond, Toyota, such as BAE Systems, into our ecosystem of energy storage, understanding their needs, understanding how to connect larger industry players with startups, with other solutions, with small and medium businesses. So we've brought in these players who are interested in moving this forward. And we've seen startups do amazing things as well, such as Bridge Green Upcycle, and a startup partner, Ateos, who won Battery Manufacturer of the Year in 2025. And also did a couple of projects with the engine. So we're seeing a lot of activity. And of course, in this industry, like in many others, sometimes there's one step back and two steps forward. Is that the saying? But all in all, we're seeing a tremendous amount of activity in the region moving forward, um, and developing the things that we need to develop the industry even more. We've built a network of over 60 partners. I think this number is probably even higher today. We should do a recount, because we bring on partners regularly. We funded 30 different projects in the first 2 years, some in research and development with industry, academia, R&D partnerships, and some more on the translational startup side. Excuse me. So again, in moving with companies helping to advance the TRL 3 to 5 to 7 and beyond more quickly than would take without our partnership. And we'll talk a little bit more about those funding mechanisms a bit later. But these startups raised 20% of all their funding in the past year alone. So that just shows you the momentum that we've been able to generate by being in this ecosystem. We've also done work, some of my colleagues have done work to attract community members. So one of our major concerns, of course, is NIMBYism and communities being concerned with specifically battery safety. So we do a lot of work there as well. So for example, last year we had a large installation at the New York State Fair where we were present, and we brought in teams from universities in the region who had built battery powered cars, and we talked to people in the community about concerns with battery safety. And so we're trying to showcase that this industry can be a place for economic growth, for great jobs, and that it is safe to have this industry here. So we'll be doing that again this year at the New York State Fair. And if you happen to be there, please stop by. It's a very, very fun event that we do. So I talked a little bit about how we are making this transition now from the first 2 years that was really the setting up phase of the engine, the nation phase, and moving into this years 3 to 5 and what that looks like. So what does that look like? It's $45 million from the NSF over these 3 years with those additional matching commitments that I talked about earlier. And what's important, I think, for me to point out about this shift in strategy, especially for any folks who have already worked with us, is that we have been able to support startups, and that's very important for us to continue to do. And we've been able to support R&D projects, which again is also very important for us to continue to do. And projects that have been really interesting and important for the industry, and that have been able to leapfrog technologies that we talk about often. All this is critical, but we believe it's not enough. So this doesn't necessarily create customer engagement. We see with some of the projects that we led, and just in conversations with companies, we see customer after customer accepting a trial, and then not making a commitment. So in the next 3 years, the engine has already been doing a lot of work to become what we call a market maker. So what are the needs of the industry, of the customers? What do they actually want to purchase and need to purchase? And so what this means is that we're going to do a lot of work with the people who are buying these systems. Larger corporations, if you're doing electric aviation, maritime applications, or modernizing the grid, if you're doing data center work, or with the DoD, what is it that you actually need? What are the requirements to build what you need? What are the cells and systems that you need? So we're doing this work so we can connect our ecosystem partners to these necessities, but so that we're also the drivers of this whole ecosystem, um, and that we can help build this technical roadmap to move forward of what is really going to bring this industry back to the US. We know if they're not committed, meeting industry partners, this isn't going to work. So we are focusing on this market making, and our grant programs that we have reflect this shift from this market push of pushing technology into the market to thinking of it instead as a market pull and understanding what are the needs of the downstream customers and helping translate that to our the companies that we work with to make sure that products are actually going to be purchased. Of course, we didn't invent this idea. There are other players in upstate New York and beyond that have done this sort of model. So we went and looked at interesting outfits such as Sematech, who did this type of innovation back in the day, or Georgia Tech Research Institute, essentially acted as these organizations that acted as a center of gravity, so to speak, to really bring industry players in to help bring the money flowing. If the semiconductor industry was able to do this and bring tens of millions of dollars in, then we believe we can absolutely accomplish this in the region with energy storage as well. And we know that we can do it because we believe we have the best people in this region. Of course, we're biased because we know New York has incredible people who are innovating all the time, not only at universities, but with the startups that we work with and beyond, and small, medium businesses and beyond. And we've been innovating for decades. It's a great environment in which to work, and people have really been at the forefront of innovation in this region for decades in different industries. And so we believe we can do it, and we believe that upstate New York is the perfect place to do this. So our focus, so in the next 3 years, we'll focus on some thrust areas or areas of expertise for the engine, which are safety, power engineering, advanced manufacturing, and AI. We know that if we're too diluted, we can't focus on what we think is the most critical of things for the industry to move forward. So, number one, safety. We need to build batteries that are absolutely safe. This could mean new materials, different types of manufacturing, cell making, packing operations, anything that's related to safety. And we're going to focus very intently on this. Power engineering, if we create great batteries that can deliver high power, how are we going to transmit that and make sure all systems can handle the load? How are we going to make sure that systems charge in 10 minutes, 6 minutes less, right? So this is a very important function in batteries and energy storage, and something that we believe we really need to focus our core energy on. Advanced manufacturing, what does this mean? Anything that can improve OpEx or CapEx. So we know that if you go to China right now, a plant would have a very efficient design, and we're interested in technologies that can make our industry more efficient here. So, half the OpEx and CapEx, or even quarter it, technologies that can say, I can do the same thing, but with a tenth of the cost. But this also comes down to resources being used, right? And so we talk about this as reducing dependence on water, going toward dry processing, reducing the amount of chemicals that are used, reducing energy. So all of this is important to make manufacturing more efficient and cost efficient and resource efficient. As for AI, we think about how can we use this whole revolution of AI in energy storage. For example, we know there are innovators already working on better materials discovery, which is fantastic. And what about optimization of a plant? We talk about and think about creating digital twins of a plant to improve operations, using AI for everything up and down the supply chain. Think about, I mean, it could enter any area of the supply chain, right? Recycling, finding better sources of materials, et cetera. AI cuts across all of these things. And it's a core function of what we are looking to do in the next 3 years. So safety, this is not just theoretical. We started these conversations in safety with folks at Toyota Material Handling, with the Fire Department of New York, which we know is a very important focus to prevent any sort of fires. Power engineering, again, have had ongoing conversations with partners such as BA Systems, National Grid, others who are interested in this sort of grid modernization in more power and faster charging. With advanced manufacturing, with companies like Corning, Kodak, Ateos, what are they doing to leapfrog manufacturing technologies again to reduce the use of critical materials, energy, water, to make all better manufacturing more efficient? And of course, AI. So we've already had these conversations with startups, larger corporations as well. We started this process of talking to all sorts of partners in AI and beyond. And if you haven't already connected with us, please do. Again, I'm sure Maya's already dropped our email in the chat. Please connect with us. Again, a lot of what we do is have conversations regularly with folks about talking through what it is that they're currently working on and where they want to go and see how we can be a part of that equation. So when we talk about, again, this market pull from the industry, we've also developed this menu of services that we of how we engage with industry partners. So there's not a single way for us to work together, but it can also be a combination of these needs. But it's a way to think about how we can engage as an engine. And this is just a sampling, right? So what we are doing is going to an industry player and saying, okay, if you have a big unsolved problem, we as an engine can help. We can connect you with R&D at great universities. If you're an academic researcher on this call, you can think of the ways where this can be turned into a sponsored research project. For example, the other thing that we're doing is if technology needs validation, maybe a larger industry player who needs tech validation for a tech they've developed, we can help with sponsoring a project or maybe bringing a startup or a small medium business from our ecosystem to them to help solve that need, or working with suppliers or workforce in the ecosystem to solve a problem. Another example, the last on this list here, for example, is our consortium model. So you can imagine a consortium in recycling or dry manufacturing. This is something that cuts across many industries, but also areas of battery manufacturing. And I'm sure you can see how this consortium model would be a benefit to bring many players together because these are really big problems that need solving. We've done a really diligent effort earlier this year and continue to do so of connecting with partners to better understand what larger partners really want and need, and then be able to relay those needs to other players in our industry that we engage with in the engine and find solutions. Shifting gears a little bit, we've also built a couple of really important products that we think are really important for you in the industry to help industry solve problems and therefore advance more quickly. And so the first example is a tool that we've developed called Guardian, which we developed with MITRE. It's a supply chain risk assessment tool. It's available on our website and free and available to anyone for anyone to use. And is meant for anyone who is interested in better understanding where you are in the supply chain, how secure or risky is your current operation. And the tool itself is split into these two different functions of either TRL 3 to 5 or TL 6 to 9. So we built this tool so you can do an assessment of where you are. You enter into this tool and it asks you a series of questions based on your current operations that you can then answer. It then generates recommendations for you based on those responses. So it gives you this feedback and these specific recommendations. You can download your list of recommendations, and then you can go off and see what works for you and see how you can improve the greatest vulnerabilities you may have with your business. So we want companies as the engine, we want companies to understand the risks in supply chain to help you develop your company and help you have a more resilient supply chain. The other tool we wanted to highlight is the New York Best database. So Some of you may have used the New York Best database in the past. We've done a bunch of work, and so has New Energy New York, to augment the database by adding a ton of resources. So recently, in the past year, we did a large effort to add beyond service and products, also academic programs, including intellectual property and energy storage in this region, academic programs actually across the entire US, courses that you can take in energy storage facilities and labs that exist in the region. So it's a really, really rich place for you to find description of all these product services and resources, and also contact information, and much way beyond that. So if you haven't already taken a look at the database, please do. And again, it's a wealth of information. We also, on this right-hand side here, we added a layer of conversational AI to this tool. So instead of just digging deep into the database, you can also ask the questions that you need to the AI tool. So it's small print on my screen, but for example, here's a question. I have a silicone anode company and I'm looking for testing facilities in upstate New York. What are facilities that would work for me? What are some facilities I can contact? And the conversational AI tool will give you, it reads off of this database and gives you recommendations that you need based on any question that you ask it. So please engage with it. We hope it helps you. We're always adding to this database. We are always working to improve the AI tool, and we hope that it's very useful for you. Moving on to another area that we focus on, our funding mechanisms. So some of you may remember that we deployed SuperBoost last year. That, again, I mentioned this earlier, it was a program that was helping to develop companies' technologies from TRL 3 to TRL 7 to 9. So really trying to accelerate tech to commercialization more quickly, really shortening the timeline of commercialization significantly. The requirements for this program is that there was a customer demand and commitment, and that at the end of the project, we were looking for a deep understanding of feedback from the customer for these companies. And the tech focus was really on advancements in dry processing, or when we're looking forward into super boosts we may make in the future, we're looking at dry processing and American-made batteries and materials as a major focus for us. And of course, a major component of all our grant programs is that this work is performed in upstate New York, or that there are other contributions to upstate New York. And so a lot of the startups that we work with, or R&D teams, academic institutions, the form this takes is using these facilities. So using the RIT Battery Development Center, safety test facilities, Nexus at Binghamton, et cetera, to perform this work. Megaboost. Megaboost is our next iteration of SuperBoost in a sense, that we just launched the preliminary proposal stage. So the call for preliminary proposals. What Megaboost is looking like is between $500,000 and $1 million for each project, with we're expecting to have about 4 per year. And the purpose of the Megaboost is to be market making. So to catalyze large scale, high impact projects, either in energy storage technologies or their applications, to really show a signal to the market and to push products and applications beyond commercialization into market making. And so the requirements for that is that there's a strong industry demand, that there's a strong set of partnerships. These projects that we're looking at are a group of partners, not just one. And again, our tech focuses, which, I think span a bunch of the industry, is in safety, AI, power engineering, and advanced manufacturing. That's what we're looking at with these projects. And last but not least, of course, contributions to upstate New York, because again, that is what we're doing here with the engine. Last but not least, we have the R&D Manufacturing Readiness Challenge. And so the MRC, as we call it, it's between 200K and 600K over 1 to 3 years, with 3 to 4 projects selected in phase 2. This is focused on earlier stage, right? R&D. So it's aimed at accelerating the scale up of next gen battery technologies. And a main focus of this is addressing critical barriers in domestic manufacturing. And I'll jump to this next slide, which is how do you apply? How do you engage with us? So we're currently accepting preliminary proposals for the Mega Boost and the R&D MRC. You can visit our website to understand in more depth. So for the MRC, for example, I believe the LOI is one page, whereas Mega Boost, we can go up to about 3 pages because they're pretty complex projects. So sometimes you need a little bit more space to tell us about it. But we're both of these projects are accepting proposals on a rolling basis, and they're being evaluated on a rolling basis. So you can go to our website here. I'm going to take a look at the chat because I'm sure Maya, you put it in here, but our email to contact us. Yeah, it's right there. So please do contact us if you have any questions. Take a look at our website. You can see these challenges there, and you can see the call for preliminary proposals for each and understand the requirements. But also reach out to us at that email address because even before you submit a proposal, a lot of what we do is have conversations with folks, which is this really what you're looking for? And what can I do to bring in other partners? Who are good partners for me to connect with? And that's a lot of what I do is think about who are the other folks that I know in the ecosystem that I think could help, either if it's for one of these projects or if it doesn't fit neatly into a project, of course, just how it can help advance your business or your technology or what you're looking to do. So again, contact us. As always, we're happy to have these conversations. And so thank you for joining us on this journey. As we mentioned, our goal is for Upstate New York to be America's battery tech capital, and we need you to help us do it. So contact us, engage with us, be part of this engine at our energy storage engine in Upstate New York. So I'll leave you with this. Or engage with us on LinkedIn, on our website, talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share. If there are any questions, happy to hear it. So I see one. Give me a second to orient my screen. Okay. I see a comment here from Sergio. Candace, manufacturing is not only about optimizing costs, it's about getting better performing batteries like we do at Dyname. Absolutely. We couldn't agree more. I think when I was talking about optimizing costs, I was talking about maybe advanced manufacturing. So yes, I totally agree with you. Better performing batteries is an essential part of our ecosystem and of our industry. Absolutely agree. I will hang out here. If there are any other questions from anyone, please drop them in the Q&A. And if not, please email us, reach out, engage. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Let's say we make battery grade graphite. How can we be a part of this endeavor? Thank you for the question. Great question. Let's talk more. Contact us, talk to us. Yes, we talk to folks from in the entire value chain, right? So sometimes that looks like battery grade graphite. Sometimes that looks like something way farther down the value chain. Reach out, let's talk, let's see what you're working on, let's see what you're trying to do. In many cases, that can mean maybe something where it fits into one of our grant programs. And again, sometimes that just means me connecting you with folks if I think there is a good potential partnership or other folks in the industry who can help you depending on what stage in your business you're at. Hopefully that's helpful. How can international firms get access? Any set asides for those? So because we're funded by the National Science Foundation, our work is in the US and we fund programs in the US. That being said, I'm going to keep saying this, but we're happy to have conversations with anyone and everyone in the industry. Depending on what you're doing, right? It's hard to answer a broad question, but no, we don't do direct funding to companies that aren't located in the US. Do you answer that question? Okay. Do you have lab space and pre-seed funding? So I guess I would answer that question in a couple of ways. So one is that we are building Battery New York, which is an incredible facility that should be online later this year. I didn't talk too much about it. but we're thinking about it as Battery New York will do a number of things. But one of the things that Battery New York will do, and part of what the engine is funding, is what we're calling a co-work space. So where companies can come in and yes, use lab space, develop what they need to develop, but not have to stand up your own facility. And so reach out to us, or maybe we can drop a link to Battery New York here in the chat, or feel free to look it up online and understand more about what that facility has to offer. With regard to pre-seed funding, we don't do pre-seed funding specifically. Like I mentioned, we work with Launch New York that is helping to bring more funding and capital into the region, but the engine itself does not participate in pre-seed funding. What NSF programs are most as a PhD student? Interesting question. So the NSF has many, many programs. And we're part of the TIP Directorate as part of the Energy Storage Engine, which does a lot in innovation. So there's a ton of programs out there for PhD students. It depends what you're trying to do. So, for example, I-Corps, there's a national a national I-Corps program. We also run a regional I-Corps program here at Cornell University. So, as part of the engine, if you're working on a particular research R&D project in energy storage, that could be something that you engage with us in the MRC. But take a look at what the NSF has to offer. It depends where you are as a PhD student. Are you looking to are you already starting a business, and I-Corps could be of assistance, for example. Can you talk a bit more about the inaugural fellowship? Oh, great question. Is it still on a rolling basis? We didn't talk much about that. So the engine is hiring. We're hiring for a few different positions. One is a business development director. I talked a lot in this session about our engagement with industry. And the business development director is going to be a core component of that engagement with industry, of leading the effort, of having conversations with industry partners and understanding their needs and making those connections and really leading our effort in that. The fellowship that you mentioned, we have 4 fellowship positions that are currently open. In the 4 different functional areas. So advanced manufacturing, power engineering, AI for energy storage and safety. And for those, we're looking for folks who are experts. One second. Getting notification. Okay. Getting notifications. Who are experts in the industry in these 4 areas. And yes, the answer is yes, they're still open. We're still going through the application process. If you've applied, great. If you haven't, also in the news section of our website, you can look at how to apply for those positions. What the inaugural fellows will do is multifold, but they will be responsible for leading the technical roadmap for their specific vertical for the engine, and working with our corporate partners and other partners to help understand what is that technical roadmap. So not only developing the roadmap based on what your expertise is in, but understanding again that market pull and understanding what the needs are from the industry. The fellows will be those experts in safety. So in any of those, so let's take advanced manufacturing, for example. You will also work with our workforce development effort and like trying to communicate with folks who lead workforce development needs, like what are the essential components of that in advanced manufacturing and beyond. So you'll do work with all components of the engine as part of the fellowship, but you're meant to be the expert on our team who is doing that. So yes, please apply if you're interested. I believe those are the 5 positions that are currently open with the engine. And for the fellowship position, it's anywhere from 50% to 100%, whereas the business development director, we're looking for 100% full-time. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. So thank you all for being here. Again, engage with us. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Maya, for your help and support.